Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. How we feeling, everybody? Merry Christmas Eve. My goodness.
Another Matt. I feel more comfortable now than I did with the first Matt. You have a way of just
Well, I appreciate that. I think sometimes with the other Matt, he's a teacher. He's very formal. He's like,
yeah.
sit down. We're going to go over exactly this. Here's a problem, just a practice. We're going to go over it real quick. I'll grade you. And it's very, very feedback driven for him. So we're just out here hanging out, having a good time.
We're having a great time. I think with us too, there's a certain grit to knowing
Mm.
where we are, right, within the context of the league. Matt has been eating off a silver platter
He
all year
has.
long, right? And I sense that just in the way he talks about fantasy.
Yeah.
There's a certain just grueling nature of our seasons that I just don't think he can understand. We see a pain in each other's eyes, right? That we can.
It's one thing. Matt has spent his time in the losers brackets, but it's not been recent. And I think when you're looking at the ethos of a team, you have to look at recency. And you and I, my friend, we don't have a great recent track record. Matt has had two great teams in a row. So he's riding high. He's got like an air of arrogance around him almost. He's just like, there's just something to him where he's like, I would tell you who to start, but I can't interfere. Cody, I would tell you who the best tight end to start is, but I don't want to do that.
When he
But
says,
man,
"I'm sure you'll make the right choice," it gives
oh,
me like teacher over your shoulder vibes where you're like, Mr.
mhm.
Russell, I have it narrowed down to these three. Which one is it?
Yep,
And he's that teacher who, he knows he covered the stuff. He probably gave you the answers to the test before it even happened. I'm sure you'll make the right choice. And he pats you on the shoulder and he walks away and you're just like, God damn it.
just
Leaves you in a
horrible.
pretzel.
Just demeaning and belittling and makes you feel like you're not a man. But I'll tell you what, we're going to cover the matchups from last week that ended yesterday, and we're going to cover, or we're going to cover the playoffs and the toilet bowl. But I just want to say, I went to bed with Josh Jacobs having over 19 points. I went to bed thinking I was going to win. And I think this has been, I know it's at least 3 years, but I think 4 years that I have not beaten you in fantasy in PMO. 3 or 4 years I have not beaten you. And I had one guy left who had 19 points in the first quarter. And I needed
Yeah.
five or six more points from him to win.
It's reached the point, and when you factor in Dynasty too, where I don't even understand it. I don't know what's going on, and it's beyond anything. I can't even feel good about it or brag about it anymore because it's just become a statistical improbability
Yeah.
to the max, right? Like Jacobs with that many points, 9 to 10 players on the Packers had carries after
Yeah.
the fact. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. I
And
watched the whole game.
Yeah, and it's not a Dynasty podcast, but then I lose in the semis. I have the
Right.
best team in Dynasty by far, most points for by over 200 points, and I lose by 1 point to your team
Yeah.
in Dynasty. So it's only fitting that we're here together to talk about the matchups. But let's start at the bottom and talk about the Pitts matchup. The first thing I'll say about it is teams were scoring. We have some of the highest scores in any matchups that we've had all year.
Yep.
Teams were scoring, putting up mega points. And then there's the Pitts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It worked out so beautifully. And I would have the pleasure of seeing Matt in person this weekend for just a brief time. And he said it very well. And just that's what you want to see, right? Like, and Ryan was the same way. We have these rules in place. And every single year, you're somebody who talks about eliminating chance. Like, how much control do we want to have over that, right? And there's a balance there. That's fantasy. Is part of it is control, part of it is chance. But when you have a rule in place that things happen and you send somebody down to the pits, and this happens, I think we can all collectively can say we did it. We did it right. We did a good job.
100%. That's a really good way of looking at it, especially considering Ben would have been in the playoffs. He would have lost in the playoffs, but he would have been in the playoffs. And so to see that go well, and it would have been even better if Ethan got a win in the first round. Unfortunately, he did not. But it's just not rooting for or against anyone, but just the fact that the system took care of business is what you're looking to see. Obviously, Ben gets the win, 76.48 over 71.98. Grant, I believe, needed just a few more points. I think you said that Jaden Reed had a surefire touchdown, but the pass was
Yeah.
behind him. So that would have
He
won
had
him the
one of
week.
those Jaden Reed bombs where it was like one where it was a yard or two underthrown.
Yeah.
And it would have been one of the craziest Pitts victories because, I mean, you said it yourself 2 months ago. Jaden Reed is a all or nothing kind of guy, right?
Yep.
We've seen that. And so it's even more fitting, again, that it came down to Rico Dowdle and Jaden Reed. And it ended up not being enough, right? It was close, but, I mean.
Yeah, it was close. I haven't looked at it to see if he would have won if he had CeeDee Lamb. I don't think he would have, but I don't know for sure. So that's the Pitts. Obviously, Grant will be looking forward to you serving us drinks, being our personal butler at the draft. I've already talked about it a lot. Not a lot, but I've talked about it a little bit. I have been way too sober and way too prepared for the last 2 drafts. I'm throwing it all out the window, getting tanked. So, Grant, you're going to be hearing a lot from me during the draft. And maybe a little national anthem just to get us in the patriotic spirit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're going to keep that boy busy, and we're going to figure some things out as we go, right? Because I think, and I'd be curious to know how you feel about where we landed for punishment. I feel good about it. I don't know if I feel great about it, just because, and there is no perfect balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the lack of involvement from the Pitts, for whatever reason, and there's factors there too.
Yeah.
A little bit of fear, just enough fear that you're going to check the app at least, right? Like, that's important. And I don't know how we find that balance, but
I think we're very close to it. I think that what we're at now is like so close to perfect because we've been way too heavy on the Pitts before, where like the championship almost wasn't even paid attention to between the hot dogs and the pancakes and like all that stuff. It was just crazy. This is like, it's just like a half step below. We could probably add something to like just turn it up one more notch and like find a perfect balance. But I'm super happy with where it is. The championship's getting the appropriate amount of attention. The Pitts, like, people still cared about it. I know for sure that Ben and Grant really did not want to be the one to lose it.
Yeah, completely agree.
So I think we're very good. People could just care about this league so much, as they rightfully should. I personally care about it an incredible amount. That you don't have to have a crazy punishment in order to sort of incite an incentive to not lose the league. So I think we're in a great spot.
Right. It's good that we came back to the other side of the spectrum, right? Like, we were living on that other side of extremism. And so I think we even talked about that before the season began.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were probably going to swing the pendulum back even that way, but I completely agree. I feel really good about where we're at. I think it's been just a great year. So
for sure. And no one knows spectrums better than you and I do. So going to the other side of the spectrum, let's talk about the winners bracket and talk about the 2 matchups that led us to our championship preview. So we have Give Me That and Alvin and the Chipmunks, 2 guys that have named their teams after the same player that they had on both teams 2 years in a row. Both were in the playoffs. I think, was this the semifinal matchup last year as well?
I think Tripp has lost to Cody in the semis maybe 3 times.
Wow.
Not in a row, but maybe
3 times.
And Tripp has taken a bit of a breather now in the aftermath of this, which I completely respect. Anybody who knows Tripp knows that he is the kindest person you'll ever meet in your entire life. Also the most patient person. But underneath that kindness and patience is a true competitor.
Yes, just a burning, raging fire.
Oh, my God. Like, unlike you've ever seen in your life, right? And so I think he was at a family event, and he just said, good on him. Because we've all been there. We've all been sitting somewhere where we should be paying attention. And instead, it's like this. And your wife, fiance, girlfriend, whomever is what the hell are you doing? And you're like, Jalen Hurts just came out in the first quarter. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, it's like, what do you expect from me? I poured my whole life into this for 5 months, and you want me to just look away now in the last moment? I don't understand. But I think for Tripp, obviously scoring 72 points, second lowest on the week, probably the lowest of his season. You can at least take solace in knowing that Cody put up 161 points.
Yeah.
So, like, you're not going to win the week. You're just not going to. Matt puts up 151. And if this would have been the championship, he would have lost by 10 points, which is crazy.
It would have been one of the best ships we've ever had. In terms of
without a doubt.
So I really hope we get that. I hope this is not a semifinal repeat a couple of years ago when me and Cody was 75-60 in the finals. Nobody likes that.
No, it was horrible. That was one of the worst 2 weeks of my life, truly. So, for Cody, Jonathan Taylor redeems himself, 40 freaking points. That's crazy. Jahmyr Gibbs, 23. BTJ, 23. Baker goes out there and gets a standard 20. And he's getting 12, 13 from both of his flexes. Just a stellar week. Like 161, what else can you say? It's just an incredible week. Unfortunately, on Tripp's side, he's got 3 guys that really show up and everyone else just stays at home. I think that do you think they were thinking about, like, I just want to have a good Christmas. Like, I don't want to get hurt. I'm going to go out there and just relax, maybe catch a pass, maybe attempt a couple rush attempts. Yeah. But other than that, I just want to make sure my kids have a good Christmas.
They knew that the owner of the team was going to Jeff Ruby's and he wasn't going to bring them anything back.
They
found out that they said, we're about to try to make you $800-900 and, you're out eating the filet mignon, sipping, the nicest wine they got, and you can't even can't even bring us back like, an appetizer, a side of fries, something.
Yeah, it's like, you send a nice picture of a good crusted steak, but you don't send it cut open. I don't get to see the inside. Yeah, maybe you ordered it well done. Maybe it's just disgusting piece of rubber.
Like when I opened that picture of the steak, in my left hand, I had a bag of frozen Tyson chicken nuggets. And I just went, all right. And it made the steak look 10x better. And I'm thinking, okay, this is beautiful. This is great.
I think that's a very fitting metaphor for the way the 2 seasons have gone as well. You got a bag of frozen chicken nuggets and Tripp is eating a $100+ steak at the finest steakhouse in Cincinnati. So that sounds about right. I want to
ask you about this matchup right here, though, is I think it's really great because it encapsulates both of their ownership strategies, right? Yep. Cody has this way of drafting players that kind of linger and show signs of life for a while, and he just holds on enough, and he drafts very high ceiling, right? Very high ceiling, much lower floor than somebody like Tripp. And when the time comes, he's capable of putting up 160 and getting that spot in the finals with Tripp. And Tripp has even said this in the past. He is so smart and so data, analytically focused. I don't think that he could even draft his tolerance for risk. He doesn't have it because he's so good at analyzing the data and ensuring that his team is consistent. But sometimes you got to get that guy who's going to disappoint you all year long and then go off for 40 out of nowhere in the semifinals for no reason, right?
What are your completely agree. And if you look at Cody's team too, and this is more to the point of their team personality, Cody physically could not have made the wrong choice for who to put in. His bench scored 125 points. His bench of 7 people and one quarterback scored 125 points, would have beaten Tripp in his full roster. Even if Tripp combined his bench and his starters, Cody's bench beats Tripp's team. And I think that's just like, if Cody's going to win, it has to be all the way there, because when Cody loses, it's because he has his whole bench is not doing well, but he benches the wrong guy that goes off. So his starters, there's one guy he could have switched out and he would have got the win. And to your point about, just hitting the stride at the right time, we'll cover that later when we look at the box score for the championship, because you pointed out a pretty cool feature to me. So that's going to be really cool to look at. But for Tripp, I think injuries, I won't say took him out of it, but definitely had a couple key players who you'd like to have in there. And then, his studs just didn't really come through at the right time. So it's an unfortunate way for his season to go out, but it leaves us with a pretty fun championship to talk about.
Starting Patrick Taylor Jr. and Kendre Miller, it's sad. It's really sad.
It is.
But
let's jump over to the next matchup, man. He will. Oh, no doubt.
Right, 100%. Yeah. Okay, let's talk other side.
Yeah, run me through this, Pat. Talk about this matchup a little bit. Maybe you watch some of the games. Maybe there's some interesting things you want to talk about from this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. So fly Eagles fly. Ryan, he puts these gritty teams together of guys that he likes, and he just seems, again, he hangs on. He's enough, right? Like, he does actually remind me a lot of the Eagles in certain ways, in that he has that, the ground game, the tush push, he's just going to, out grit you. Whereas Matt has been the guy all year. Matt has been the odds-on favorite, ran the table, has been the team, and has had a minor falling back in the week since running the table that has caused enough of do other people have a chance? But now he's here. He's coming off a 151-point week. You can't really ask for more than that, right? Jaden Daniels, a star of his team, 35, looked insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. And Smith and Jigba, I think he's a top 5 receiver in fantasy right now, right? He's probably 4 or 5 after last week with 20. James Cook has been solid. Matt's team, just top to bottom, it's elite, and we've known that all year. Ryan really just got outmatched. Like, Ryan should be okay. I gave myself a shot. I put myself in a position, but sometimes it just comes down to the more explosive team wins, and that's what happened.
Can I bring up something that you mentioned about JSN? Who's the coach that just went over to Seattle? He came from college. It's where Romo Dunze played. Washington? Was it from Washington?
Yeah.
So before the season, Matt was talking to me, or maybe after the season, near draft time, Matt was talking about how he picked JSN specifically because the coach that came over, I think he's the offensive coordinator, would run schemes where I don't, maybe it was Odunze, maybe it was someone else on the team, just was perfectly slotted for that role. And he thought JSN was going to come in and have an absolutely monster year. So for in the semifinals, for him to come through for 20 points, that's like the foresight that you expect from a math teacher who's like staring down at the analytics. It's awesome. On Ryan's side of the house, 110 points, 7-7 on the year. It's just like exactly what you'd expect. Like just so consistently good, but just didn't get over the hump this time. It's not to say it couldn't have happened. Jalen Hurts only had 5 points, and obviously Matt scores 150, so he's probably not changing the outcome of the game if Jalen plays better. But he's just a really good team that could have gotten it if in a different circumstance. And I think that's like exactly right.
Hurts got knocked out first quarter, did not come back into the game. He got concussed. He had been looking great. I was worried, you hate to see a matchup end because of an injury. Luckily, even if Hurts would have played his ass off and had 30, Matt was too much. And so I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that it's just a matter of getting there and giving yourself a chance, controlling what you can control, but also understanding that there's a lot of chance involved. There's a lot of, matchups are really important, and Matt had some great matchups, but you look at this, you say, I put 110 up, that'll win sometimes. Semifinals is not always going to win. But, I think you say, all right, we'll get them next year. We did our best, and we gave ourselves a chance to win. And that's the goal at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So Ryan feel good about what he did.
At the end of the day, that is the goal, but only one team gets through, and only 2 teams make it to the championship. And here we are. We're skipping all the fluff this week. We're talking about last week. We're talking about the championship because that's just all there is to it. Looking at the box score, Pat, on Matt's side, averaging with his starting players, 116.42 points, projected 119.5. On Cody, averaging 121.96, projected 126. Easily the highest projection I think I've ever seen. How do you think this goes, and who do you want to win?
Yeah, I mean, this is a heavyweight fight. Like, it is 2 teams that are hot. One team that has come on very strong at the end of the year, and one team that has been the favorite the entire time. I told Matt over the weekend that I think it's a lot like Mahomes Brady, right? Like, Cody is looking to solidify himself as the GOAT, get his 3rd ring. And Mahomes, Matt has been the guy, the best in the league in terms of finishing and just overall success for the last 3 or 4 years, like the next guy up, right?
Yeah,
and I think when Mahomes and Brady first played, Brady got him on that. It was, a very defensive game, but regardless, there's so much to look at from a matchup perspective here is the big thing. And the question is, who is Cody going to pick, right? There's a couple of huge ones. One that I'm going to be looking very closely at would be Jamar in Denver against Surtain, probably the best cornerback in the league. I think it's fair to say Jamar is the best wide receiver in football, right? Like, after what we've seen this year, it's not even a conversation. There's no 1B. That is a very interesting thing for me to watch right there. Ultimately, I really would like to see Matt get his 1st ring. I obviously have a lot of skin in the game because I don't want anybody to have more. I like being tied with Cody, the idea of Cody having more and having that much leverage just to be like, I'm the king forever, which he should. Go, do your victory lap. And
take that
Cody
lap.
apologized last week, and I want to say, don't ever apologize for winning or for celebrating your win, right? The understanding as a league is it's cyclical. Like, we will all have our time on the mountaintop, and when it comes, like, fucking shout from the mountaintop because you're there. And you and I can tell them right now, like, when you're there, own it. Like, embrace it, right?
Absolutely.
So
wear that victory.
I expect to see a shootout. I hope it's back and forth. We have a great holiday week. My brain says that Cody is going to beat him. My
Okay.
brain tells me that Cody wins. I think
I like
Jameer is good for like 40, dude. With Dale Montgomery, Jameer is just script proof. BTG, Thomas Jr. has been fantastic. Like, Cody's team is just too hot right now.
Yeah.
And after the 150, 160, I expect 2 weeks of, that to come down and to get towards the average. And I think Cody's average is just going to be higher. I hope I'm wrong. It's a brain heart thing, but that's where I land.
I'm in a similar situation, brain heart. I would love to see someone who's spent some time in the pits get a ring. I don't want to see 3 in a row. That is without a doubt Mahomes territory of like, you just have to hate him.
Yeah.
To that end, I say it all the time. Matt says it all the time. Stop me if you've heard this before. What's the hardest thing to do in sports?
Beat somebody 3 times.
The last 2 matchups between Matt and Cody this year, Cody, 83.88, Matt, 112.82. Matt wins. Second matchup, Cody, 93.2, Matt, 102.24. Matt is up 2-0 on the season series. If he were to come through and beat Cody 3 times on the year, only have 2 losses, sweep the league, win the championship, second in PF, but gave it an absolute ride, we're looking at one of the best fantasy seasons that PML's ever seen.
Agreed. Maybe probably the best, right?
Probably the best. Yeah. It would be like if Peyton in 2020 or 2021, I forget which year, if he had won that year. That was a crazy year as well.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at it, the line says 7.2. So they're giving Cody, they're giving Matt 7.2 points. I think this is a dead even toss-up. I think averages and projections are straight out the window when you're within 10 points on a matchup this big. I think it's going to be an absolute roller coaster the whole time. I think we're going to be looking at a matchup that is absolutely full throttle from the beginning. I think both guys they both have guys who are playing tomorrow. Cody has at least 2. Matt has at least 1. So it's going to be an absolute ride starting tomorrow on Christmas, going all the way through Monday. I think I'm just guessing on that one.
No, you're right. It comes down to Jahmyr Gibbs against.
Wow.
Just Jahmyr on Monday. It'll be only Jahmyr, right?
So that'll be incredible. And so obviously everyone in the league is just really hoping for a great matchup, a lot of points. The last thing I want to say about it is if you could pick any 2 people to be able to be in the championship and get the best text messages in the group chat while it's going on, we've got an absolutely star-studded lineup of Cody and Matt, who easily send the most text messages, shortly followed by yourself and me. But, just going to be an awesome week. I'm so freaking excited for it. Pat, how do you want to close this thing out? Any last words for us?
I want to ask you one question.
Please.
About this matchup.
Yep.
So, who are you starting? George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb? CeeDee Lamb in full PPR leagues was going 1-1, right? 1-1. Yep. Matt got him in a trade, and now he is either starting Pickens against the Eagles or CeeDee against the Eagles or Pickens against Kansas City.
Can I tell you exactly how I think this is going to go down?
Yep.
So it's unfortunate because if these 2 guys played at the same time, I think this would have a significantly bigger effect. Yep. But I think that Matt is going to have George Pickens in the lineup until 1 minute before the ball is kicked off in Kansas City. Yeah. I think that he's going to play CeeDee Lamb. I think you're a fool not to play CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens is great. Kansas City has a pretty good defense. It's a big reason why they're winning games. CeeDee Lamb, I don't care if it's freaking Ben Barnett throwing him the football. He's going to score points. It's just how it works. He has a wide receiver 4 on the year, and he has had 3 weeks under 10. Yeah, 3 weeks under 10 points. Wow. So it's like you're going to start him. So this little mind game of Pickens in the starting lineup, I'm a huge fan of it. I love it. It's going to get in Cody's head. And I know all Matt wants to do the whole week is to get in Cody's head because once you're in there, I've been in there a few times. Once you're in there, you can just set up shop. He's got a nice couch for you to hang out in. And it's
a beautiful space. It kind of smells like salmon and cheap wine, but it's great. I like hanging out there.
Yeah, awesome. But it's in the best way, in the best way.
In a very good way. Yeah, I've spent too much time in Cody's head.
Oh, my goodness. Haven't we all? All right. Well, I think this wraps it up for us. Yes. My goodness, man. Absolutely a blast having you on. We'll just play the music. We'll run us out. But this is the last PML for the championship. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on. I would say thank you to So
I
we
love
love
it.
you guys. We appreciate it. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Yep.